Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Action Network. I am Chad Millman, Chief Content Officer of the Action Network. Today is our NFL Divisional Round Best Bets episode. This is the episode where we will get feedback from the wise guys who listen to the show. We will build our moneyline underdog parlay. We will get to our foxhole and big balls bet of the week. We will narrow down our favorite NFL picks, of which there can only be 4, because there's only 4 games for the entire NFL playoff slate. As our old pal Colin Cowherd likes to say, there's a sea of money out there. If you want to follow along with our official bets, you can check them out in the award-winning Action Network app by following the Favorites podcast. Let's bring in my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF, professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Aloha, Chet. How we doing, brother?
Dude, it's gut check time. We got 7 games left. Saturday, Sunday. I'm running out of reasons to sit on the couch and say that I'm working for days on end. I already feel lost about Thursday nights. After this weekend, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. That's how I feel.
Poor Chet. I can help you if you need to. The greatest excuse ever is coming up is the draft. Be like, honey, I need to scout these quarterbacks for the draft. I mean, there's no better time for nerds, right? It's another reason to be like, hey, I'm busy until April. I really gotta dive into this draft. Especially you got the number 1 pick, Chad. You gotta act like you're a scout for your own team. You got a plethora of excuses, don't you? I mean,
Look at
come
you
on.
going back to the plethora. Wow.
Yeah, my
My
cousin loves it, so I had to
gosh.
give her a shout out, Lucy. It's one of her favorite words. She was like, "Can you please use it more often?" It's like I'll force it in there.
Guy, eventually you're going to have to flip the page on your word of the day calendar. You you can't just leave it on whatever day plethora. But
Facts.
um it's true though. The Bears will not be able to make a decision until I weigh in on whether or not we should keep Justin Fields, which continues to be a conversation in my house. Even last night, my son and I went to Gamble Pavilion on UConn's campus to watch the #1 ranked UConn Huskies. And during the game, we were still talking about Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. Simon, lines are bouncing around, some in the wrong direction from what we wanted based on our Tuesday convo. So we'll have to dig into that. Before we get to all of that, a quick programming note. If you aren't paying attention, lean a little bit closer to your radio dial and focus. We have 2 final Sunday night recap episodes left. We are going to do both of those immediately after the last game concludes on Sunday nights. So this Sunday, we'll go live on YouTube after the Chiefs Bills game around 9:45 p.m. Eastern. I actually can't wait. It's way past my bedtime, but
Yeah.
this game is so full of drama, so full of opinions, so full of Matt Mitchell freaking the freak out. I'm almost more excited for seeing Matt Mitchell in whatever state after that game than I am talking about the game or betting the game itself. Will Matt Mitchell have eaten wings? Will he have worn gloves? Will he be able to come on if the Bills don't win? Simon, there's a lot of subtext with that game.
Yeah, it's what, the game of the year?
Game of the
Is it
year.
safe to say it's probably the game of the year?
We're going to get to it. We're going to dig in deep. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right. Kicking off the divisional round, which is approaching, opportunities all over the board. It's time for Sharp Calls.
And since we only have 4 games, we'll kind of do this pretty quick. I would say shocking to no one. About 65%, 70% of the pros I talk to like Houston. They like Houston at that number. It's such a big number. We're obviously we're going to dive into it way more, but I would say if people want the view of how the pros view this game, I think they're scared off about all the points like we are with Lamar, and they're just pairing the money line with the 49ers money line. And it feels like that's the bet they like. If they're going chalky, they're just pairing those two favorites together. So pretty interesting that I haven't really talked to that many people that like the Ravens on the spread. And I feel like when I look in the app, it reflects that, right? Like it looks like all the money is on Houston. And I kind of dealt with this last week with the Rams. Like people kept messaging me, aren't you scared about backing the Rams? All the money is on the Rams. And talked a little bit about it, but it was just like last week was the pros' dream of a bet, right? The pros took the 3.5 and they took the Lions money line when the line came down and they crushed the middle. And the books didn't fire anybody, but they probably should have, right? That was a bad, bad line. They shouldn't have hung a 3.5. The number should have been 3, should have dropped to 2.5. They would have got Lions money and they would have made Alf pretty well. Instead, they got crushed. They got middled terribly by a lot of professionals. So that's what I mean. You talk all the time about these key numbers. That was last week was the definition of that. Like a 3.5, such a key number. They had to move it down just because they got so much money on the Rams. And I mean, the worst case scenario happened for them was that landing in between 3. Just terrible. So, this next game with Green Bay, it's the same thing of I know plenty of pros who like Green Bay. They like them at 10. They believe in it. And there's pros like me and you that are okay with taking the 49ers here. We like the spot. And we're trying to break down. This is a 7 seed in Green Bay for a reason. We know how well they played towards the end of the season. It's still a team that their defense can give up a ton of points. I mean, we joke, what was that, 4 or 5 weeks ago? They made Baker Mayfield look like a Hall of Famer, and they made Tommy DeVito the player of the week. So, that's my pushback when I had a bunch of pros telling me, like, how do you not take this Green Bay team? How do you not take the money line? I just feel like that was going to be the most public play of the week, right? People are just going to be backing this Green Bay team, especially after they beat Dallas. So I'm not sure if they're still the biggest money line play of the week, but I did see what was that, Tuesday when I flew out before I left, that they were like the heaviest bet play at the books right now was their money line. So not shocking that the public likes them so much, but I was shocked that there's pros that like Green Bay that much, where it's like I did at first too, but the more you dive into the numbers, it just feels like the 49ers are the right side. Same
Pros like
goes.
you and me, Simon. The key phrase there, you just said it. Pros like you being Chad and
Yeah.
me. Okay.
If people don't realize, I am sleep deprived. I've traveled across country, survived multiple babies on an airplane
Don't
to give
don't
the
try to
state.
give excuses for why you just called me a pro. Let's,
No, that's not an
just
excuse. It's a fact.
no.
Don't bring babies on airplanes. Don't even have me get into it, chat. Next one, I was undecided about it. I think I'm getting bullied into taking Detroit, and again, we'll dive into it, but people want to know who the pros like. Most of the pros I've talked to really like Detroit in this spot, which I'm just shocked by. So that's one we'll dive into, obviously. And yeah, this last one, it's not a shock to anybody. It's exactly what I talked about. If you can get a 3, a lot of the pros are going to take the 3 on the Chiefs, and that's just to them the smart play. Like they're playing the numbers, and historically, taking Mahomes as a dog, especially at that number 3, is a big deal. So I knew going into it, the public side was going to be the Bills. Um, obviously we're about to break it down, but it's just not shocking. Like that was probably the most boring game, most boring conversation of the week. Why wouldn't the pros take the +3 on Mahomes? Like they know that long term, it's been good to them. It's been a winner. I was just bummed out that not enough of them are taking this Bills team. I don't think enough respect's being paid to this Bills team. So yeah, definitely a game I'm looking forward to breaking down with you today.
I am too. I'm really excited. To me, it's that game wraps up everything you want to talk about from a handicapping point of view. As a reminder, catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. For those enjoying on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. All right, we got to get to our foxhole. We got to get to our big balls. We got to do our money line parlay, which I think might go heavy on favorites this week. I don't know if we have a choice, but let's start Houston at Baltimore. You hinted at this a little bit. Baltimore, 9.5 point favorite. Tuesday, when we spoke, the line was at 9, trending to 8.5. And then it zoomed back up to 9.5. And you just said something really specific and interesting. You look in the app, the money and the tickets are coming in on Houston. So somebody's moving this game in Baltimore's direction. And I can't figure out where that money is coming from. Do you have any idea? Can you suss it out? What's your instinct for why that line moved back up, even though the wise guys and everybody seems to like Houston?
There's a bunch of factors, but I mean, Evan just put in our chat the weather. That could be a factor why it moved, right? It's supposed to be 20 degrees. He's saying it's 13 to 15 per mile winds. That alone would move the number, right? Like, why would you not want to take the Ravens in a bad weather
Yep.
game? That's a big deal. Like they're a team that they can thrive in that where we don't know a Houston indoor team that plays better on indoor, fields. We've seen it with CJ. It's a big deal. So that makes sense. I would say what was pretty crazy. I was getting a lot of questions about a book we can't name is kind of new into the whole gambling sphere, and they're trying to get new customers. And they went really bullish and they moved, I believe it was the 49ers and the Ravens down to like 8, 7.5 at their books. And people were asking why they were doing that. And if you obviously if you don't know what this book is, you probably missed a number then. But basically, this book is trying to get new customers, and the perfect time to get new customers is during the playoffs. So that's why people were wondering why that line was a point or two off every other book. It's that simple fact. They're trying to get new people in there. So, I mean, people are freaking out. They're like, if you don't you love the 49ers here at this number? Yeah, of course. I mean, every other book had 9.5 49ers. That book had 8. Yes, I would love to take it at that book, but it's basically they what they wanted to do happened, right? If you hadn't had any money on this site, you added money to it, and then you took that number because it was such a great number. So some of the books movements have been BS, but what I think the movement is the weather, and then the other fact of what I just told you, all those teasers, all those money line parlays coming in really heavy on that Ravens team. That's what the public wants to do, right? They want to take Baltimore, like the Baltimore, which I get it. Like we talked about them ad nauseum after that 49ers game, how incredible of a team they are with that defense, when Kyle Hamilton's playing well, with Roquan Smith is playing well. It's like they got all the pieces. They're an incredibly talented team. It's us fading them is more about playing the numbers, right? Like we talk all the time. We love Lamar under 3. If he's 2.5 favorite, if he's a dog, me and Chad hit him almost every time. Like it's very rare we won't take that number. But when it gets over 3.5, we pause. And then when it gets over 7.5, it's an automatic fade on him. And I don't know if you saw Evan's article, but it's like Evan put up the numbers. I knew we had some of the numbers that kind of backed it up, but it really stands out when Evan posted it. Well, this is one that doesn't involve that, but on 12 days rest in Lamar's career, he's 1-6 against the spread. So that right there is something that pops out to you where it's like in 7 games, he's 1-6 on 12 days rest. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Now we factor in what we talked about the past 3 seasons at -3.5 or higher, he's 6-16 against the spread. Like that's such a big deal. The fact that he struggles as a big favorite. Now when it goes above 7.5, he's 1-8 against the spread. I mean, you already talked about it. The only cover he had was in week 1 of this season against a rookie head coach and a rookie QB making their first start together. So it just all lines up where we already loved it, and then the trends kind of back it up as well. So Lamar, I would be happy to be proven wrong. But me and you are up so big right now, it doesn't even matter. Especially if you've been listening to the show for the last 3, 4 years. Like that was one of our best calls we ever had, was that Titans call. Like that was a great call where Titans, I believe, were a 10-point underdog and they won outright. And it's just, if you go back and watch that game, the Ravens should have won that game 30 times over. Like it was the flukiest thing ever. But that's playoffs. That's what I'm trying to beat into people's heads here, is that's how playoff is. So it's it is tough. It is tough trying to convince people to take the Texans here, just because I get where they're coming from about the Ravens loving how well they've played this year. But I love the Texans in this spot, Chad.
Simon, I believe we owe people a big balls We owe people a foxhole. We've already committed to the Bills and the Chiefs, as Simon says, and the Packers and the Niners as an exec decision. I believe this needs to be our big balls bet of the week.
Say it loud and proud.
Big balls bet of the week. Houston Texans plus 9.5 against the Baltimore Ravens. Throw the graphic on the board, Tito, because this is what we're doing. There's no coming back from it. And look, this is a bit more of a controversial call than you would think for people who want to back big underdogs in this spot as professional bettors, which is what Simon and I would normally do. Because there is money coming in on the Ravens, and there is a sentiment about the Ravens for everything we can say about Lamar Jackson as a favorite. He's been a home favorite 38 times. He's covered just 15 of those games. Over the last 20 years, he is ranked 213th of 220 quarterbacks against the spread as a home favorite. He has just historically struggled as a favorite at home. That is the trend we are going to back right now.
And another
Right?
amazing stat from Evan I love. In the last 20 years in the playoffs, there's only been 4 teams, Chad, that were underdogs of a TD or more that closed with over 60% of the tickets. So 4 teams have ever done this. So in 2014, we had the Saints at plus 10. They lost to Seattle, but they covered. In 2008, Giants against New England. If you remember that, the Super Bowl, they were a
They won.
12-point dog. They won 17-14. So right now we're 2-0 on covering these big dogs, big public dogs in the playoffs. 2008 Giants plus 7 against Dallas. They won 21-17. So not only are we at 3-0 on picking these big dogs, we have 2 that have won outright. And then 2008 Seahawks plus 9. They got smoked by the Seahawks 42-20. So that was my point. People were asking why we were trying to get people to take the money line. That's why I want you to throw a little on the money line, just because if you play this spot long term, it's a nice trend so far. I know it's only a 4-game sample, but it's been profitable taking these big dogs, not only on the number, but on the money line as well. So had a couple questions about why even mess with the Texans money line if I have a future. I want it all, baby. Like I said, if you don't want to take the money line, you just want to ride your future, go for it. But it's like if I like a spot, I'm gonna keep throwing money on it. So obviously I love the number. Yes, like Chad said, a little scary it came back up, but now it makes a little bit more sense now when we're talking about weather, because that is a big deal, the factor in the weather here. So if you've been riding these unders too, these wind unders, if it holds and we're getting 15, 20 mile per hour winds by kickoff, if you're wondering what me and Chad are liking a total in that game,
Yeah.
it's the under. We like the unders. We play wind unders here. So double play on that one, taking the dog, taking the under.
Speaking of double play, Green Bay at San Francisco. San Francisco is a 9.5-point favorite. This was my exec decision. I still love it. I love it even more because the majority of the bets, meaning the squares, are coming in on the Packers. They are a public dog. I'm so thrilled about this. Just the value on this team is inflated. This team should be a 11, 12-point underdog in this spot. And we have seen this too many times with a team coming in hot and then getting demolished. They are one of the youngest teams in the league. They're just happy to be here. This is all a surprise to them. In November, they were on the outside looking in. They needed a run in the last 2 months of the year just to get to this spot. The Niners have the best shot to win the Super Bowl they have had during Kyle Shanahan's reign. There's no dominant team in the AFC, right? So to me, remember, the Packers lost to the Giants second half of the season, lost to the Steelers second half of the season, gave up 30 points to the Panthers second half of the season. I'm betting the Niners. I might even be tempted, Simon, to take some of the alt lines. Niners minus 21 plus 335, minus 24 plus 486. I'm going to sprinkle. I feel so good about this game. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle.
I think the first call I got when we got off our call on Tuesday was a buddy or a pro saying, fucking Chad, as soon as you guys said take the 49ers -10 and move to 9.5. I said, yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, it's just we love it. Like the more I dive into it, I'm with you. And then I read Evan's piece about, Shanahan as a home favorite, big favorites like this. It's all there. Like I have no fear in taking this number. I feel like you nailed it too, where we're getting a good number just because of what happened last week with Dallas. Like that blowout. Yeah, I went back and watched the tape. It's like Jordan Love is next level right now. Like his confidence is out of this world, and that's the way they stay in this. And that's why the pros are backing a little bit of this Green Bay team is because of that. It's like at the 10, I understood why. It's like, okay, you're hoping for a backdoor Jordan Love because that's what I'm in agreement with you. It feels like this 49ers offense is going to absolutely roll on this Green Bay defense. Like there is not going to be a bunch of pick sixes, right? Like I just can't see Brock Purdy having a meltdown like Dak
No.
did. The first 30 plays are going to be totally scripted by Shanahan. So it's like I have no fear at all compared to Shanahan's script with McCarthy's script against that Green Bay's defense. So yeah, Chad, like the fact that we're getting 9.5 again, I kind of wanted to make it my foxhole, but I don't know if that'd be sacrilege. Just because I just love it that it's come down. And it's like I don't mind hitting it again. Like I already bet it again. I used that book I talked about that were like weird enough to give us the -8, where it's like, all right, you sons of bitches, I'll be a new customer to your shit site and bet this number. If that's what you guys want, that's what I'll do. So yeah, it's crazy. It moved like it did, and uh, I'm shocked. Every book is holding steady at 9.5. Like you said, it's the public dog of the week is Green Bay. So the books are saying, all right, we don't want to give anyone else the 10, then we'll just hold it to 9.5. And I'll be interested to see if it pops by game time just because of all the teasers and all the bets coming in on the 49ers, I think, late.
Number one, for the record, I said the Niners were my executive decision at 9.5, not at 10. They were not at 10 on Tuesday when we had the podcast. Number
You
one.
weren't looking at live numbers, though. I was. It was 10 at Bet365 when you said it. And Matt Mitchell had the graphic up at 10.
Oh, he did?
Correct.
Okay.
I wouldn't lie to you, brother. Come on now.
I wrote it down as 9.5. I didn't write it down as 10. So
Yeah, I know. It was just because we were in studio, like you couldn't see, but the live number was 10. That's why Matt Mitchell had it as such, which is
got it.
fair.
All right. That's fair. Fine. I'll take it at 10. Totally fine. Number one. Number one. Number two, this is a luck over. The luck rankings this past week went 5-1. This is a luck over. And what did I say the other day? I think the final score is going to be 42-14. So we
Yeah.
like the over in this game. I'm betting the over. I'm betting the Niners. I'm betting some alt Niners as huge favorites, as high as I can get it at the biggest number I can get it. Here's a great stat. If you like Green Bay to pull the upset, consider this. Since 2011, 18 underdogs won outright in the wild card round. 17 of those 18 lost in the next round. Kyle Shanahan, at home and as a favorite in the playoffs, 4-0 straight up and against the spread in both spots. Since 1990, the only coach 4-0 or better in that spot. But here's why I like the 49ers so much this weekend. They have 9 wins of 16 or more points this season, most this year with the Cowboys. 11 wins of 10 points or more this season, most in the NFL. This is just a great spot for this team that is probably the best team in the league right now.
Yeah. And like you said, it took me a minute to come around. I think the biggest one for me is just their defense, where I know the 49ers defense will be able to get stops. And I don't know if the Green Bay defense will. Even if Purdy comes out a little rusty from this extended rest and, they start out sloppy in the first quarter. We've seen it. I mean, even when they played the Eagles, we saw them go on, that run. I think they scored 5 straight times where it's like once the 49ers offense gets going, it's just you can't stop them. And like everyone's healthy, like just going through their injury report right now, like it's all good. Like it's crazy how, not that I thought McCaffrey was going to miss time, but like he was banged up towards the end of the season. I mean, they
Yeah.
held him out. They pulled him out of a game because I think he took a shot right on his knee, and it's like they got the rest. All their guys are good to go. It's so crucial getting that one seed, especially a team like this that's so physical. So yeah, couldn't have picked a worse spot for Green Bay to walk into, especially when they're overinflated, like you talked about. It's just the line moved too much based off what happened last week. It's like I do think Green Bay is good. I think they are. I mean, it's crazy to say I would have them higher rated, obviously, than a bunch of teams. Like even the Eagles, who were ahead of them, it's like they've passed them, right? Like how they're playing right now, they are a better
Yeah.
team than the Eagles that we're playing. So nothing but respect to Green Bay and what they've done this season. It's just a bad spot against a really high powered offense with the 49ers, and just I just can't see how they keep this one close. So I get what you're doing the alt line stuff and betting all that. But yeah, like the fact that you're getting 9.5, that makes me so happy. Everyone can get that number now just because the public have bet this down.
Go get it. And now, a quick word from our sponsor, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Are you too sad from seeing Mike McCarthy coach your football team to leave your house? No problem. With HelloFresh, you skip trips to the grocery store, and unlike betting on the Dolphins, they make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why they're America's #1 meal kit. This time of year, everyone's looking to revamp their eating habits. Look to HelloFresh's wholesome options every week. They know breakfast is the most important meal of the day. In fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every single HelloFresh delivery. So go to HelloFresh.com/favoritespodfree and use code favoritespodfree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/favoritespodfree with code favoritespodfree. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Simon, I think this has to be our foxhole. We leaned Bucks on Tuesday, didn't pull the trigger. We hadn't done all of our diligence yet. It was 7 at the time. I think it cost us half a point in value. I think we both still like the Bucks a lot here. If you can find a 7 at somewhere, take it. The majority of the bets are coming in on the Lions. That's why I'm thinking it's got to be our foxhole. Detroit got outgained by the Rams. And if you look at the matchup, Baker Mayfield is going to torch this Lions secondary, and everyone knows what Todd Bowles is going to do. He does not disguise it. Blitz, blitz, blitz. There's one thing Jared Goff has not been as effective against. It's the blitz. It's extra pressure. I feel like we got to go with the Bucks.
Yeah, my model likes the Bucks. I wanted to take the Bucks. It just sucks all the pushback I got where I get where the pros are coming from, why they love the Lions here. No one thinks the Bucks are a better team, right? The Lions are obviously the better team. They deserve to be this big of a spread number, but me and Chad just think it's too high. That's why I want to take the Bucks. As simple as that. We're just playing the numbers here. So yeah, I guess Lions fans are just very sensitive right now because they haven't been in this position. They haven't won a playoff game in 30 years, and they're kind of puffing their chest out. And they quickly went from this lovable underdog character. So I think every NFL fan kind of hates them now, a week into the playoffs. It's too much, Lions fans. Like, I don't know. They're being aggressive. Like me and Chad, it's all business here. It's all business. Like, I got nothing against the Lions. We're not begging you to take the Bucks on the money line. We're just telling you to cover this number. Like, that's the key here. It's like the number's too big. We think it should be closer below 6. It's 6.5, 7. Like Chad said, a couple books, you can still get 7s. How can we not take that number? Like this team, the back door is always open. And people point to they played early in the season. Me and Chad were on the Bucks. Yes, people kept reminding us that we took the Bucks there against this Lions team at home. They lost 20-6, and I went back and watched it. And my biggest takeaway was it was just a bad Baker game. Baker
Yeah.
played terrible in that game, and they were just never going to be in it. Baker can't play. So same goes here. If Baker lays an egg, yeah, of course the Lions are going to dominate and win this game. But Chad just talked about it. It's like their secondary can be moved on. They're not a team that is going to shut down other offenses. They're a team that needs to outscore you. And that's the fear with backing the Lions here. It's just like, are we going to get the same exact thing that happened last week where Goff looked incredible in the first half and then just totally fell off a cliff after a team that made the adjustment for the second half? Like, that really did happen. He put up 3 points at home against that Rams team. He did struggle in that second half. As much as I like to make fun of these dinosaur coaches like Todd Bowles, I expect him to be able to make adjustments to give Goff problems. So, Chad, you've talked me into it. I did get bullied pretty hard about this, where people are like, "You guys got to stop overthinking this and just taking this Lions team," because the shotgun of pros do like the Lions here. I can't get there at this big of a number, like especially at the 7, just feels way too big. So, yeah, the Lions team have to do what they did last week against the Rams. Their defense got to, what I talked about, they got to play like the old school football style. They got to be rough. They got to be hitting guys every play. They got to be all over Mike Evans and Godwin's. And, that's how they could win this game, is stopping those two guys. But me and you are betting they won't be able to. And like, I feel confident in doing that when you look at the numbers. It's just how bad they are against the pass. I mean, we just saw what Puka and Cooper did. Mike Evans and Godwin aren't there far of a step down. Like these guys are such producers, especially Mike Evans had such a bad week last week, Chad. I love that bounce back spot. I know we don't do props on here, but I do love Mike Evans props this upcoming week. I like his anytime touchdown. I like his over receiving yards. It's just a great bounce back spot for a Hall of Famer who just had a bad week last week. And he talked about this week in interviews. It's like he wants to get that back. Oh, there we go. Stuckey's on Godwin overs. It's like,
I was just gonna say Stuckey is on Godwin's over longest reception. Folks should listen to Stuckey and Raybon on the Action Network Thursday episode, because they went deep, deep, deep on a breakdown of this game from the perspective of the Lions secondary against Baker and the Bucs. And a reminder, the last 4 games, the Lions defense has given up Stafford, 367 yards. Puka, 181 yards receiving. Nick Mullins, 396. Justin Jefferson, 192 yards receiving. Dak, 345 yards throwing. CD Lamb, 227 yards receiving. And then that previous game against Minnesota, Nick Mullins, 411 yards passing. Justin Jefferson, 141 yards receiving. Last week, Cade Otton, who has become America's sweetheart as a tight end, he was the Action Network pick of the week. So many player props were won on Cade Otton, including Matt Mitchell and Evan Abrams and Stuckey, with a listener at a random bar betting Cade Otton alt lines, live lines on Monday night. You just have to expect another big game from the receivers in this matchup. And I think that's what keeps the Bucs close, because you said it in that first game, like Baker just missed a lot of balls downfield.
no, he laid it to a leg, and that's the fear, and that's why I think I'm getting pushback from guys who like Detroit here, where it's like I'm investing too much in Baker after one of Baker's better games. But if you really go into the numbers last week, Baker did play really well, but it wasn't like his best game ever, right? He just took advantage of the opportunities the Eagles were giving to him, and that's why we like Baker. It's like we talk about his grit, and he's just a constant pro. Where it's like, I like where Baker can go over 5 throwing, and it does not fade him. He still has the confidence as if he just went 5 for 5 throwing. It's like the guy just does not get shaken that way. And another amazing stat from Evan. Again, it's a small sample. Baker in his career is undefeated against the spread in the playoffs, right? Like he covers in the playoffs. He's always a little bit underrated. So this feels again like he's a little underrated here. I have this number 5.5. It's 6.5, 7. We love to take that value there, especially on crossing key numbers here, like 6.5 and 7. So yeah, unfortunately, our book is showing 6.5, so that's what we'll have to play. But like Chad said, there's a bunch of 7s out there you can go get, people.
I do think come Sunday, this will be back at 7. I would wait on this one because the money's going to keep coming in on the Lions. They are America's sweetheart team. They are a public team. We've seen these lines move as games have gotten closer to kickoff. I would hold off. We saw it last week. The Chiefs went from 4 to 4.5 to 5 to 5.5 against the Dolphins. If you like the dog here, give it a second. But the Bucs plus 6.5 will be our foxhole. Simon, this is just the second time in Lions franchise history that they have been favorites in the playoffs in consecutive games. How long ago was the last time? Matt Mitchell, please play the hot new #1 recording sweeping America. The last time the Lions were favored in consecutive playoff games, it was I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, December 1952. Simon, I wasn't even born in December of 1952.
My dad wasn't even born yet. So that is a long time ago.
Thank fucking God. All I can say about that. All right. Kansas City Buffalo. It's the game we got to talk about. Everything else is preamble. This is the game. This was your Simon Says. Been bouncing around 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3. It's back down to 2.5. It's a Pros Joe's game. Bets are on the Chiefs. Money is on the Bills. I did bet it this morning. I know on Tuesday I was 50-50. This morning, Bills by 1,000,000. Rasul Douglas practiced on Wednesday. Sean McDermott in his press conference yesterday made it seem like linebacker Terrell Bernard, who carted off the field, could play on Sunday. This was the big issue for me, was the injuries. Is AJ Klein off the street going to be the guy defending the middle of the field? But everything you've said about the Chiefs is right. Like, they're not the same team. So this is when it gets really fun. You need to understand when the wave is cresting. And that's the scariest part of betting. I believe we are picking a time when the wave is cresting.
Yeah, and it's also like I remember you were worried about the injury on Tuesday, and we didn't talk too much about it, but it was also in the back of my mind of like, it's the last game, buddy. Like, even if a guy like that guy did break his ankle, they'll give him the pain meds he needs, right? It's just like, can you give us one more? That's how all these guys are so damn tough. I mean, it's like the hockey thing, right? The hockey guys play with all these injuries, and the season ends, they get about 10 surgeries. So the same goes for football. I mean, you just saw it, the season ended for the Ravens. I think Williams got hand surgery like the next day, right? Like he had a broken hand he'd been playing with. So there's just
You mean
always,
the Rams?
yeah, for the Rams, like there's just always these injuries where guys are just playing through it. So, another guy, and I think had a concussion for the Bills, you know, he's already going to be back to play. So it's like all these guys are going to find a way back. They just know that this is kind of it, and it's winner take all. So, I was shocked that there wasn't as much love for the Bills. I thought there would be. Like it seems like guys are just scared to go against Mahomes, honestly, and they feel like not that it's lazy betting, but they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to take the 3 and not even worry about this one. Where it's like, why don't you just do that with the Bills of the 2.5? Like that to me just feels like the smart play. Like you just said, it's all lined up there. The Bills, yeah, we need those guys in the middle, like you talked about. Like we don't want guys who just got up off their couch playing middle linebacker for this Bills team against Mahomes. But it's like I'm just not scared of Mahomes and this team. And like just going through this last, couple months with them, it's like they'll have a game where they kind of show it off, right? They're back to their old self. I think they had a game where they put up 31 points in the middle of the season, and like everyone jumped right back on them. And then the next week they could barely move the ball against Denver. It's like they're just so inconsistent. And the Bills, whatever you want to say about them being inconsistent and Josh Allen's turnovers and everything like that, um, the inconsistency kind of changed for me when they made a change at OC, and they really did find an identity by running the ball more. And it's like that's going to pay dividends to them. I feel like in the playoffs, right? Like when they need something to lean on, I feel like they'll be able to do that. And historically, another thing I stole from Evan, it's like Josh Allen against really good defenses actually plays really well in his career. Like he performs really well against really good defenses. So I know that a couple pros bring that up where it's like, well, they have the better defense for the Chiefs. It's like Josh Allen cancels that out. I mean, Josh Allen, can we not agree he's the best quarterback in the draft, like left in the playoffs, right? From like what the way he's played coming in and him in that Steelers game where it's like that ability to run and be so big and strong, like it's just such an X factor. We've even talked about the fact that the Chiefs have never played in Buffalo when the Bills have had a full stadium of their fans. Like it's just all points to them. And the only thing keeping this down below the 3, it's like It's the
Mahomes.
professionals taking the 3 on the Chiefs. So
Yep.
it is just such an interesting line this week where it's like, I thought it would be stuck at 3 all week. I'm shocked the books are taking the 2.5s, but I have to believe they're laying another bad line. Like they've laid a couple bad lines already this playoffs. I think this is another bad line by the book.
Every team has that moment where they get over the hump. And you and I have loved the Bills the second half of the season. We've been riding them. We think they could be as good, if not better, than the Ravens, especially as this defense was coming on and getting more comfortable after all the injuries. And what they've done with Joe Brady, I mean, we saw it the way Josh Allen ran the ball against the Steelers. As long as they can make the right coaching decisions and stay out of their own way, the Chiefs have only beaten one playoff team this entire year, the Miami Dolphins. They
Yeah.
did it twice. And so this is a great spot for the Bills to psychologically, it's an important game for them. It's an important game for Josh Allen, important game for McDermott. It sets up perfectly if they can be healthy, playing in front of the home crowd, cold conditions. Like, yeah. The more we talk
Only,
about it, the more it seems like the right thing to do.
yeah, only the way the Bills lose is if the Bills beat themselves, right? If Josh Allen has a meltdown, turns the ball over a bunch, they're sloppy, they're not making the right plays, of course, they're going to lose this game. But it's like, if they just played the way they should, I just don't see a way that this team beats them. And I know you love ref stats. And a couple people send this to me. Obviously, this ref stat is not good for us. I don't know if you saw this. It's Sean Hockley will be the ref for this game. So in his history, Mahomes is 8-2 when he refs his games, including 2-0 in the playoffs. The Bills, on the other hand, they have 40 penalties for 347 yards called against them in 4 games with Hockley. So they average 10 penalties a game with this guy when he refs their game. So not the stat we want to see. The ref clearly is not good to this Bills team, but I'm still not worried about it. I know a lot of people would send it to us. We do love ref stats, but it's just like the NFL isn't going to try to fix this game for Mahomes, people. If that's what you're worried about, they are just as happy moving Josh Allen along and this Bills franchise along. So don't start the crazy conspiracies yet. But yes, if they don't cover this game and a ref makes a big call at the end of this, I will bring the stat back up and we will bitch about him refereeing this Bills game.
Look, what the NFL is really going to want, I think they want a Bills Niners Super Bowl.
It's line up that way. I think the Action Network tweeted out someone made that bet for like 10, $15 to win like 5K. It's like, it looks like such a great bet now, but if you made that bet a month ago, people would have thought you were a crazy person.
Yeah, I mean, look, I made that bet before the season. Uh,
Did you?
my two best remaining futures are, and I wanted to talk about this next week if it advances to that. Um, how do I hedge? Because my best futures remaining are Niners Chiefs and Niners Bills matchups. And you know why I made that bet? Because before the season began, Evan Abrams had a great stat that I think 9 of the past 10 Super Bowl winners had odds of 12 to 1 or less when the season began. So I just did a round robin of all the matchups, and it was all like it was Bengals, Chiefs, Bills against Niners, Eagles in every pairing. So I just did that, and I've got two remaining. Pretty good,
Uh,
right?
yeah, I was gonna say you're in a nice spot where it's like basically with that hedge, it's pretty simple. You just let the first game play, right? So
That's what
like
I was
say
going to do.
next week the 49ers are the first game, you just let that play out and then you can hedge the next game if you're really scared. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great bet.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this on next week's show. How much am I hedging it for is the question. Before we get to that, normally we would do the money line underdog round robin. A reminder, we're on the Bills here, -2.5. Normally we do the money line underdog round robin. We love the Niners here. We like the Bills here. I guess we could do a money line underdog round robin of the Texans and the Bucks, but I'd
Not
almost
not Bucks.
rather.
I wouldn't do Bucks. I know it sounds stupid, but I just feel like the Lions will win this game. Like I don't know. Just the fact that Campbell is such a high risk guy that to me gives them the edge to win it where I wouldn't bet. I know I usually like betting the dogs money line. It's just I feel like his new age thinking is going to beat out Todd Bowles' old age thinking. That's why I just haven't touched their money line. But yeah, the three favorites and the one dog. If the Texans come through, that's going to be a really nice payday on that on money line round robin.
So I feel like our money line round robin should really be Texans, Lions, um, Niners, and Bills.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Okay. Put it in the book. Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL part of your game day. Simon, if a genie granted you three wishes, how many of your wishes would be related to Little Caesars Pizza?
All of them.
All three. That's right. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before NFL games and get ready for some football and fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Simon, what do you think about this new motto I invented? I invented it. If thy team on Sunday seems tired and lazy, 'twas simply because thy crust twasn't crazy. However you order your pizza, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game. I just got to say, I've had multiple people come up to me to ask me about the Little Caesars reads and if I'm coming up with those mottos on the spot. And the answer is 100% yes. They are all mine. Matt Mitchell doesn't help me at all. I think about them for days and I just put them in the script all by myself. Matt Mitchell doesn't see them, doesn't write them. Matt Mitchell has nothing to do with it. As a reminder, for the second time, you can catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. All right. Do you have a biggest bet yet at this point?
Um, Shockingly, it's pretty close. Like I'm pretty heavy on the Bills because I thought the 2.5 would be gone. And I'm pretty heavy on the 49ers at 9.5 because I also thought that'd be gone. But the Texans, like I've been hoping it gets to 10. So the Texans might end up as my bigger bet by the time Saturday comes around. But it's like I threw a really small amount on the 10 when it popped on Sunday when we were in New York or Monday morning, and it just hasn't gotten back to it. So that Texans might end up being my biggest bet because I'm just waiting for the 10. But yeah, my two favorite bets right now are definitely Texans and the Bills.
No, Niners and Bills.
Yeah, sure. No,
Well,
I'm
you just
saying
said.
like, yeah. I meant by the time their games kick off,
Ah,
those will
okay.
probably my two biggest bets: Bills and Texans.
But right now, you really like the Niners, 9.5.
I'm in on it, 9.5.
Like your buddy Chad said. Just saying. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right, before we get out of here, our director of research, Evan Abrams, who is the engine behind the stats and nuggets you hear on the show and across our network, he is joining us. Evan, you get the last word.
All right, guys. So if you like the underdogs this week, I think you're going to love this one. So teams to win by double digits in the wild card round, facing a team who didn't, are 17-7 against the spread in the next round over the last 20 years. Not shabby. When those teams are underdogs, they are 17-4 against the spread. That is the Texans. That is the Bucks. That is also the Packers. Now, I got to put a little bit of water on the Packers for a second here because this is Matt Mitchell's favorite trend. If you're into travel trends, this one is a good San Francisco one. So we have a playoff road team traveling from EST, Eastern Standard, and Central Standard to West Coast on short rest. That's only happened 8 times since 2006. Those teams have lost 7 of 8, also failed to cover 7 of 8. So travel in 2024, definitely not what it used to be, but with that and the short rest, hasn't been good for history. Now, Simon used this stat. I'm going to finish it. So Josh Allen plays really, really well against good defenses. In his career, he is 26-1 against the spread, 77% when facing a team allowing under 20 points per game. Over the last 20 years, that is the second best of 247 quarterbacks. He's sandwiched between two pretty decent quarterbacks in Tom Brady and Peyton Manning at 1 and 3rd. And finally, Chad mentioned this one earlier. I'm also going to finish the loop. If the Lions close above a 3.5-point favorite, it'll be their biggest line as a favorite in a playoff game in franchise history. And one more. This is crazy. So in the regular season and postseason, the Lions have been favored by 6 points or more versus a winning team just twice in the last 20 years. They are 0-2 straight up, 0-2 against the spread, with the last game coming all the way in 2012. Truly unprecedented times for Detroit.
It is insane. How excited. Detroit got a shout out at the Emmys. A guy who won an Emmy for Ted Lasso thanked the Detroit Lions. What do you think of that?
More people watch our YouTube page than people watch the Emmys, Chad. I hope you know that.
I don't know if that's a compliment to our YouTube page or a diss on the Emmys. But now anyone who wasn't watching the Emmys now knows this. To recap, our foxhole is the Bucks plus 6.5. Simon says Buffalo minus 2.5. Our exec decision, I guess, has got to be San Francisco, but minus 10. I don't give a shooting star. Big balls, Houston plus 9.5. The round robin, Houston, Detroit, San Francisco, Buffalo. Download us from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until we see you guys Sunday night live after the Chiefs-Bills game. Love you.